Hey guys, I just got a couple things to say before we actually move on to the closer look video. Now remember, the closer look videos aren't exactly supposed to tell you everything about the card or anything like that. We're just going to give you the pure overview and just what we think makes the card good or makes the card bad, pros and cons and all that. If you want to see a full-length video of what we think of certain cards or archetypes or decks, let us know. We can do them. Suggestions are welcome. In the meantime, enjoy the video. Hello everybody, welcome back to another closer look video. My name is Silvokiji, and this is TheZoneGamingGo. So, this closer look is actually going to be done on the first non-monster that we haven't done in the series that made no sense. We're going to be doing Toon World, the first spell card we're going to be representing on the closer look series. I'm here with Rohawk currently right now, who actually does play a Toon deck, and I asked him to kind of join in and give some insight exactly for why Toon World is actually one of the most valuable cards in the Toon archetype. So you go ahead and say hello.
Hello everyone. The Toon expert here for some reason.
More confidence, please. More confidence.
More confidence, huh?
Be like, hello, I'm here to actually help you guys venture off in the world of Toons. Don't be so...
Oh, I will help you.
No,
yes.
no, you sound like a bummer. Okay, so we are going to be continuing now. So when you look at Toon World, you see it's a continuous spell, and the effect called Activate this card by paying 1,000 life points. For any new Yu-Gi-Oh player, they're going to look at this card and think it's the worst card ever because you actually lose life points without really gaining actual benefits. Well, there is. Toon World actually is the pinnacle of the archetype, all called Toons. And using this card is actually the first step in actually using a Toon deck. Actually putting this card in your deck is the first step to actually creating a Toon deck. Because without Toon World, you have...
It's a half-assed deck, honestly.
Yeah,
that's why players that usually use this deck usually plays multiple versions of them in there. So, you know, somehow they could just pull it out.
Now, there's a lot of powerful cards in the Toon archetype that Toon World actually creates, but we're not going to talk about them in this video because this video is all about Toon World. Now, I will say that Toon World does make a lot of these powerful monsters actually able to be played, and I will say they actually gain a lot of powerful effects. One, notably, if you remember, if you actually watched the episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where Yugi actually dueled Maximilian Pegasus, his Toons were basically invincible, and that's because one of the many effects that Toon World actually gives to certain monsters is making it so the monsters cannot be destroyed by battle while Toon World is actually in play. So we're going to kind of talk about a lot of the pros and cons with Toon World, as well as support cards that are used with Toon World, and also some buffs that they've received over the years to help them with their tremendous weakness that we will actually discuss in just a few seconds. Actually, Rohawk, you mind telling the audience exactly what the Toon deck's tremendous weakness actually is?
Well, its tremendous weakness is that... Now, how do I say this? Is that if you... it's like you have to have Toon World to actually use it to its full potential. Because most of the cards here require Toon World to...
Oh, we got a slight disconnect. A slight disconnect, okay. He was really talking too. I'm going to go ahead and continue what he was saying, so that way we can kind of like continue when he actually gets back. So basically what he was saying is that Toon World, in order to be used for its full potential, or Toon archetype, Toon World has to be on the field. Without that pressure of Toon World being on the field, you kind of create a, like you said, a half-assed deck, or half experience, or not half experience, a half strength-wise deck. There we go. I like that little phrase better. So you're gonna have to always have this card in play, and that's upsetting because cards like Mystical Base Typhoon, Dust Tornado, Heavy Storm, Harpy's Feather Duster, so many different spell and trap card or spell negations that do exist does but put Toon World in a very tight situation. Now that is why a lot of the aspects of Toon World is to by all means protect this card and everything that it is worth. So we're going to talk about a little bit of the support cards that actually works with Toon World. So one of the numerous buffs that Toon World actually received was the Toon Table of Contents. Now if you need Toon World to be in your deck, or be in your hand I mean, you are going to play the Toon Table of Contents. Add one Toon card from your deck to your hand. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Toon World, but if you don't have Toon World, it's easy to go. So you have 3 copies of Toon World, 3 copies of the Toon Table of Contents. So now you're going to have a more percentage-wise in order to actually be able to play Toon World on that turn 1. Because you kind of want to play Toon World on turn number 1. Not turn 2, preferably turn number 1. And that's when the Toon Table of Contents kind of needs to make an appearance. Rohawk?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay,
I'm
so
back.
I went ahead and explained to them exactly what the weakness of Toon World was about. Actually, our Toon archetype is having Toon World constantly on the field and constantly having to protect it. And now I'm on Toon Table of Contents when I'm explaining to them basically that it helps you bring out the Toon World if you don't have it on your turn 1. I believe I don't play Toon deck, but I believe that Toon World should at least be played on turn 1.
Yes, so you can actually use it to its full extent. I would say also another thing about Toon Table of Contents is that it's also beneficial since that you can also access 90% of your cards, since most of the cards have Toon in their title. So it's a very good way to pull out the cards you need, just not Toon World or stuff like that.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of Toons in your deck. Your deck is going to primarily be Toon at this point, and Toon Table of Constants is it's a super strong searching move, but only for Toons. And that's what makes it like really powerful, but not too powerful because it's only one specific archetype.
It is a nice thing that it also does not require you to only be used once, like some cards do.
Now, after that here, we have the Toon Bookmark. This is another card that I wanted to talk about, along with combining with Toon World. Now, usually if we actually had a spell card, we wouldn't talk about a lot of supports with them. But because Toon World is technically like I like to call it, it's not, but I like to call it a monster spell. Because it's like, you know how you have a monster card and your monster card, and you can play spell cards for your monster. Well, Toon World is kind of like it's a spell card, and you can play other spell cards with it. So that's why I usually just call it a monster spell in that category, because you have all these effects that work with Toon World on the field from spell cards.
You can totally see it that way. I would personally like to say it's more of like a equip card kind of seal.
Yeah,
Considering that this one can help combine Toon World or any other card that has Toon World in their description, necessarily speaking. And also, it has a very good, it's like what Silvo has already explained, it's a good support. Because it actually can protect Toon World from actual card destruction by actually banishing this card into the graveyard.
Oh, yeah. I just saw that. I did not read that second effect until you mentioned it. I was like, wait, what? It can do what?
Yeah, it's a really good card. That's why if you see it, regardless if you have Toon World, you can just use it and just pick any card. Or it's because you can just have a safety net right there.
Now, something I want to express to a lot of people, or I kind of no doubt, is that Toon Bookmark in the description says if Toon World, and it has in parentheses with an S. That's because, yes, you can have multiple Toon Worlds on the field. There is nothing stopping you from playing more Toon Worlds. Now, before Toon World was released, during the episode and during the manga series, I actually thought Toon World was a field spell. I completely thought it was a field spell for years because I never actually seen the card.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
He only had one, so I'm like, oh, there's only one, and it's not limited, so you can have 3. We already mentioned that you can have 3 copies of Toon World, but this is a good card to keep Toon World from being destroyed. You want, like I said, you want to be able to keep that card alive. If you want a specific card to help do that, then you have Toon Bookmark to kind of assist you in that category. So we're gonna go into the biggest buff that the Toon types or Toon archetype has gotten. Like we mentioned, but you know, a lot of different archetypes have got buffs over the years, and this is like the biggest and like the best buff that the Toon attribute, I keep saying attribute, the Toon archetype was able to achieve, and that is at the hands of the Toon Kingdom. Toon Kingdom is in fact a field spell for the Toon World archetype, and generally I consider this card being super strong. Super strong. It's not limited, right? You can have multiple copies of Toon Kingdom?
You can have multiple copies of Toon Kingdom, yes.
Now, there is a downside to having Toon Kingdom. As you read the effect, it says, when this card is activated, banish 3 cards from the top of your deck face down. This card's name becomes Toon World while in the field zone. Your opponent cannot target Toon monster you control with card effects. If a Toon monster you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish 1 card from the top of your deck face down for each of those monsters instead. So this basically gives you more of a safety net for your Toon monsters. It could be considered better than Toon World in some cases, but because for one, Toon World has no effects at all whatsoever.
It technically should have been Toon Kingdom that Pegasus was using actually instead, because that's actually.
I think he did use Toon Kingdom. He did use Toon Kingdom in a movie. I think it was a movie.
Yeah, but Toon World doesn't have that effect, so it didn't make sense. But whatever the case about that, but
yeah. Yeah, they weren't, but there are some Toons that do exist in the in this game that cannot be destroyed by battle unless you have another Toon. So there is something like that going on. So this gives you like more viability in your Toon cards, and having to banish 3 cards from top of your deck, it's a gamble, because it might be 3 cards you might need. It might be 2 copies of Toon Kingdom, 1 copy of Toon World. Now, just because Toon Kingdom does exist, I advise you not to just have 1 or 3 copies of Toon Kingdom. And if you have the ability to have 3 copies of Toon World, I say go for it. 3 copies of Toon World, 3 copies of Toon Kingdom is perfectly okay. Now, because this card name becomes Toon World while in the field zone, and this is a field spell. So that's a different thing from Toon Kingdom to Toon World. Toon World, you can have multiple copies on the field, but Toon Kingdom, you will not have the ability to do so. But having Toon Kingdom on the field and Toon World is still pretty good, because what it makes your opponent want to do is have to get rid of them both. I mean, of course, they're going to prioritize Toon Kingdom, but it's whatever.
Of course, though, if you might actually get them both destroyed, but
Heavy Storm.
But yes, with how Silvo explained, you can have multiple Toon Worlds on the field, but you can only have Toon Kingdom, only one of those on the field. So that's a difference to keep in mind.
So we've been talking about a lot of support cards, and we've been talking about the pros of Toon Kingdom a lot. Like, Toon Kingdom doesn't have any effects on its own, but when you combine all the effects it does have with different other cards, it is an amazing resource for actually in play. Now, that gives us another big disadvantage for Toon World besides having to constantly protect it, and that is the fact that it has all those different cards to use with it. Toon World has no effects on its own, so if you break with just a Toon World and a couple of Toons in your deck, oh, that's awesome, but you have no other effects, basically, or no other spell cards to work with that Toon World to actually make it good.
Most of the Toon cards require Toon World to be used at full capacity, or to even activate in the first place, actually.
Yep, that is true. It's just, like, I personally love the Toon archetype. I really do. At the very beginning, Toon World was a big deal because of, everybody was like, it can't be destroyed by battle, and that was a new thing when it first came out. Of course, that's not new now. That's not actually rare at this moment. But with the buff with Toon Kingdom, it did kind of boost the Toon archetype very well. But I do gotta say, the one of the cons still remains that Toon World is actually, in my opinion, not super good. I'm not gonna say it's not bad. I'm gonna say it's a coin flip. It's a coin flip, because it can be really good. You can have a good turn with Toon World, but you need it. You need it for the Toon archetype. You need it to be in play. But it creates all these opportunities with different other cards. The only upsetting part is if you don't get those cards, you just get Toon World. You just have a naked card.
That's true, but yeah. Honestly, though, it is a coin flip. It's also, because of that, it's also a very unpredictable deck, even if you do well with it as well. So it's like pretty hard to deal with.
Yeah, go ahead.
Depend if you actually have Toon World or not. But yeah, it's pretty difficult.
Now, before we actually wrap up this video, what I kind of want to discuss too is the card I keep skipping over, is the Comic Hand. Now, the Comic Hand, if you control Toon World, equip to an opponent's monster, take control of it. So, I love this card. I do. I mean, I saw Rohawk use it. I thought it was amazing. But it's this card is amazing. I mean, the fact that you get this like this easy like give me that card ability. Like, there's a lot of different cards in this game that allow you to take control of your opponent's monsters with specific conditions or specific downsides, like paying life points, having to exchange, just giving them one monster like Lava Golem or stuff like that. But with Comic Hand, if you have Toon on the field, you take it. It is yours. It's equipped. You don't get. The only thing that you have to do is you have to have Toon in play. So that just gives that card. This card in general is another reason I gotta say Toon World is not bad. Is because Comic Hand actually does exist and does allow him to do a lot of stuff. It's just I believe that Toon World can be super super good, but it can also be super super bad, like most cards can. It's just that Toon World is gonna go home, or it's just gonna,
Yeah, I can like I've experienced this like a few times because of I didn't have Toon World or Toon Kingdom. I sometimes bricked, so and there's just nothing I could do and just die sometimes. So.
Okay, guys, this is going to be wrapping up the Toon Archetype or Toon World video for a closer look. We're actually going to be looking into one of the Toon World's strongest creatures and I said creatures. Man, Magic the Gathering, I said this again. Strongest monsters they actually have in their possession. So I hope you actually watched that video as well as watched this one. Well, technically speaking, if you watched the end of it, I hope you watched this one. But until next time, enjoy playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and have a good night.
And good night, everyone. Oh my god.